It's Sunday, 9 p.m. Hong Kong Standard Time, and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Derek Taylor. Tonight you're listening to Metacognating. Metacognating is a podcast where we say what we're thinking aloud by discussing some of the downsides of education. Here, however, we are a solutions-oriented podcast, and each episode contains a tip or two to keep you sane and in the game. For all of the new teachers who are beginning their international school journey, consider this. Beyond the salary or the reputation of the school, what is the culture of your new school like? Are you going into a school that cares about the whole child in social emotional learning, or will you find yourself in a virtual exam factory where you're teaching little beings whose souls have been crushed under the weight of an academic program which doesn't consider the needs that we need in order to feel properly human? Oftentimes, new teachers, especially ones who aren't as connected in the international community as others, might not know the answer to that question until after they cross immigration and customs. Then it's woefully too late. And woe indeed. Imagine, it's your first day of school and you have spent an hour crafting the perfect seating chart only to discover that the kids that you thought would work splendidly together actually don't know the first thing about collaboration. The students groan about not being able to choose their partners, and they whine about being paired with someone who isn't as academically successful as they are, but with much stronger words. They might, depending on the grade level, have old grudges and simply be unable to stand one another, and they wonder why they have been assigned seating in the first place. They're virtually adults, aren't they? So, before tearing up that seating chart and going back to seating them in aseptic rows, center yourself and remember, collaboration is the key. Collaboration allows for students to become partners in learning, and fortunately for us, there are several ways in which this can take place. Researchers have found that students who work together in collaborative groups have higher productivity than those who work individually. They feel a synergy of good teamwork that leads them towards having positive feelings about the experience, even teaching them to lend a helping hand towards others in need. Establishing partners in learning increases their capacity to work productively, and train them in skills that are highly desirable in today's job market. Working collaboratively helps to expand their stressed cognitive loads, and if done properly, is more effective than in helping students retain information and grasping concepts than even learning through intense, individualized, direct instruction. And after you get to know your students, you can adjust your pair and group work in a variety of effective ways. My middle school, for example, uses collaborative base groups where they sit together in groups of 3s and 4s for a unit of study at a time, engaging frequently in small investigations. I make it a priority to switch the groups after every major assessment to keep the students on their toes, allowing them to form new partnerships in the class and adjust to working with a variety of personality and ability types. Even if the school you found yourself in hasn't bought into the partners of the learning mindset, not doing so can be the difference between a kumbaya semester or one where it's every man for himself. Of course, some places are more readily able to collaborate than others. I had trouble even separating my students in Oman and Mexico because their cultures encourage community and sociability. In China, however, although people in East Asian societies are often more considerate about the needs of the collective than in more individualistic Western countries, this feature of Chinese culture disappears in academic spaces, and frightfully fast too. China has been for centuries a testing culture, whether it be during the Ming Dynasty's civil service exam or today's high school entrance exam known as the Gaokao. The stark reality is that those who place the highest can expect to have bright futures, whereas those who don't find themselves on less assured pathways in life. Therefore, students and parents prioritize being number one above pretty much anything else. Oftentimes, when I set up groups, there's resistance from the more able students who don't want to work with the less able students. This doesn't come from mean-spiritedness, but the resistance derives from a common misconception that it's easier to be dragged down than it is to lift someone up. It's our duty as teachers, whether in our home countries or abroad, whether new to the field or just newly qualified, to set our students up for success in life by teaching them the skill set necessary to stand out from and to stand with other people. Keeping with the ship analogy, teachers mustn't forget that they are the captains of this vessel. Thus, the attitude towards cooperation needs to be modeled by you, their teacher. A good way to establish and reinforce these expectations is to start off by engaging the students in activities that are not high stakes, such as simple formative assessments, assignments, or gamified learning, or friendly competition in teams. Furthermore, dividing the responsibility within groups of learners will highlight their individual contributions while stressing the importance of relying on one another. Grouping students heterogeneously helps with this too, mixing your students according to demographics and abilities, as this is proven to help chronically underperforming students have more confidence in their individual abilities, whereas students who are higher achieving expand their knowledge base by working with others and teaching and solidifying concepts by explaining them to someone who is less able, but in whom they are invested. As the proverb goes, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down, and it might be tempting as a new teacher to simply fall in line and model what your new colleagues are doing. However, I advocate for the teacher to be bold, and I encourage her to set the tone of collaboration no matter what space she finds herself in this autumn. As always, resources are available in the description of this episode, and I encourage new teachers to follow up with the peer-reviewed evidence linked below to justify their actions to any colleague who may be skeptical. Furthermore, as you embark on this international school journey, be sure that you are also establishing strong collaborative relationships with your colleagues, as well as locals, so that you create the support network that you need in order to be successful. Once again, this is Metacognating, a solutions-based podcast meant to accompany you on the planes, trains, and automobiles that take you on your journey to educate the children of the world. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you tune in. We'll be here next week with more about the social models of learning, including how to create dynamic group projects that propel our scholars forward. Your listenership is much appreciated. With a subscription, you can access even more episodes, such as interviews with esteemed educators who desire to be dilemma-free too. Until next time.